Hello, everybody, and welcome to Luxuriously Poor, and thank you for stopping by. Now, I make salsa every year. I don't grow the tomatoes. It would cost me too much in water, and I can't afford it. And I was really contemplating not doing it at all this year. Everything's gone up in price. I have a hard time doing things compared to before. I'm much older and I have knee problems that really bother me a lot. And summer is coming and it's so hot, and I say to myself, I don't want to be canning in the heat of the summer. But a friend of mine, and I have been talking, this is strange because I was talking to the Lord saying, Lord, if you want me to can tomatoes and make salsa, give me the energy to be able to do it when the time comes and I can find the tomatoes on sale. Then my friend shows up. And she's got a 25-pound box of tomatoes that she got. They were giving them out. I don't know where. I didn't ask her, but she gave me a box. And so I made salsa. I guess God answered my question by supplying the tomatoes and giving me the strength to actually make salsa from it. So I've got salsa now, and the tomatoes were free because that was one of my concerns. Gas costs so much. And then I said, by the time I pay the tomatoes and the jalapenos, I'd be in trouble. Now, today's video is on giving you some tips. Tips of things my grandmother did, things that I've seen other people do. And one thing that I've seen an Italian woman do, now I'm doing this with pinto beans. She did it with white beans. She was very concerned about her health, her weight, too much fat in her diet. She was Italian, and she said a lot of her friends came over from Italy, and they had gained a lot of weight here in the United States because they changed the way they ate, and they ate a lot more fatty meats and stuff and a whole lot less fish. And she cooked eggs. It was not uncommon for her to have a plate of beans for breakfast. White beans, usually. Some sort of a white bean, canola bean, something. With 2 eggs. She would cook the beans in the eggs. She said, hey, I don't have to worry about cooking in an oil or fat and adding more calories and more fat to my diet. And I do that myself a lot with pinto beans. I will cook eggs and pinto beans together. Saves on grease, makes it healthier. I'm not adding more fat to the eggs or anything. And if I'm short on lard, which is what I usually cook beans with and fry my eggs in, this helps. I save money on lard by doing this. And my family thinks they taste just fine. And it's a simple plate. Sometimes I'll add a tortilla to it. Most of the times I just put a jalapeno on it, on the plate, because it's very common in my house to have beans and eggs for breakfast. Just refried beans and 2 eggs. And so I'll do refried beans, eggs, and a jalapeno. It may not look that wonderful, but it tastes great. Now this cornbread, this is something that I make when I have white beans or butter beans for dinner, and I really got a craving for cornbread. I don't eat a whole lot of cornbread, but I do eat it. And I usually have some left over. Now, when I was a kid, maybe like you did, or maybe you even like it yourself. Buttermilk, cold buttermilk with broken up pieces of cornbread on top. Well, I hated that as a kid. My parents loved it. My grandmother loved it. After dinner, if they wanted something to eat, got a little bit hungry and they wanted a snack, they'd go in the kitchen and pour a glass of buttermilk and crumble that cornbread up in that, and I'd go, ugh, that's gross and disgusting. But my grandmother showed me something one day. She said, there's other things you can do with this cornbread. And I said, what? How, Grandma? And she showed me how you can crumble up your cornbread into a skillet that has either bacon grease, sausage grease, or even butter. And you can toast that cornbread in that fat, whatever fat you have. Now, if you've got a little bit of sausage, and this is what's the good thing about this, or even bacon, You can fry that in the pan first. Take the bacon or sausage out of the pan. Use that grease to crisp up your cornbread. Then throw your sausage or bacon back in there, and then throw a couple of eggs in there. This is a breakfast that is made to stretch. In other words, to feed 4 or 5 people in the family. Because that cornbread, that small amount of sausage, I use the end of the sausage, the 1 pound rolls at the end. It's kind of because it's folded with the bag or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of an odd piece, and I save it to do this. And you scramble up those eggs, and I'm telling you, you can feed 4 or 5 people because this cornbread stretches. And by adding a couple eggs, I'm telling you, that is the best. It's wonderful. I mean, it tastes really, really good. And my grandmother made that quite a bit during the Depression to help feed all the kids that she had. And it was the cornbread that was left over that she would do that with breakfast because she only had to have a couple of eggs, and that was it. This is my favorite way of making eggs. And it is on a piece of toast. Now, I toast my bread in the skillet. And I cook the eggs with the same principle as I do the beans, except I use a half of a tablespoon of butter in a skillet, small skillet, cast iron skillet. I'll crack 2 eggs in there and put a lid on it. And I will let those eggs cook until they're ready. And then I will sprinkle some turmeric. I had my camera. I thought my camera was on when I made this. I really did, and found out that it wasn't. But I said, you know what? These guys are pretty smart. They can figure it out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Turmeric starts off yellow. It turns red. Add a little pepper. I crush up some garlic and throw it on the toast first. Then I put half of an avocado. I buy small avocados, and that way half one morning and the other half the next morning for breakfast. Because I eat this a lot for myself. Turmeric really helps my knee a lot. And the avocado and that piece of toast gets me through till way in the afternoon when I've cooked something else. And it's delicious. And I usually will have a jalapeno on the side because I love heat. I like jalapenos. And this tastes awesome. It's not that expensive. Sticking with the same things and making them over and over. Having this for breakfast, all you need is a loaf of bread. I buy Killer Dave's 21 seed bread. Lasts me for 14 days. $7 for a loaf, and I've got 14 days of bread to make this. 2 eggs. Sometimes I only have 1 egg and a half of an avocado. It only takes a couple of bucks to feed for breakfast for me and this. It's very simple and very easy and very inexpensive.